What's going on, guys? NealGuides here. Welcome back to another video. Now in today's video I have the 4-2-3-1 2 striker variation. That means you're going to be playing the 4-2-3-1 with the 3 cams, but you're going to have 2 strikers. So it's going to be a 3-2-3-2, one of the most meta and probably the best 4-2-3-1 formation today. If you do like this content, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to follow me on twitch.tv/NealGuides. Just a quick reminder as well, don't forget the FIFA school is now continuing FIFA 21. So if you want to join the FIFA school series, the link will be in the description down below. Don't forget, if you do join now, you retain the same price for the rest of FIFA 21. It will be going up next month. So if you want to become better at FIFA, let's say you're a beginner at FIFA, or you want to become more advanced, I got elaborate videos including walkthroughs and explain you everything you need to do and elaborate guides. So link will be in the description down below, patreon.com/NealGuides. Without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So first of all, the 4-2-3-1. Now it's very important that you don't skip this part of the video, because this 4-2-3-1 is not as simple as, for example, putting someone on like this on striker. Don't forget, this is for Ultimate Team. Particularly, you can do this offline as well, but for Ultimate Team you can't put your RAM and edit position. You have to stay in this position, in this rigid position. So the way you create the extra striker depends on many variables, many attributes, tactics and D-pad tactics, and of course instructions. So the first thing you need to understand is the 4-2-3-1 is most definitely the best formation in the game. I'm pretty sure you guys know that. You probably use this formation. The issue is, who do you bring as the extra striker? If you put the cam on stay forward, or if you play a 4-2-2 or 4-4-2, you lose that central pivotal player of that cam. So the first part of 4-4-2 is not really, I would say, that much used. It's only used because you have 2 strikers, but you lack the middle play. So the way people compensate for it is they have the midfielder unbalanced, and that means they get forward, they kind of go into the cam position, and it kind of creates like a temporary cam, but it doesn't really create the 4-2-3-1 type cam where that player is always there. And then you only have 1 CDM left. So how do you do it with the 4-2-3-1? Well, it's kind of a bit simple, and it's also a bit complicated. You can't use your LAM and your RAM, because free roam, then you lose your RAM position. You can't have one of your CDMs on join the attack. You can put join the attack on, but the player doesn't really act as a striker. He just kind of sits behind the striker, and a lot of the time you only have 1 CDM left, so you're very susceptible for the counter attack. Especially if your opponent's parking a bus, you can't distribute the ball from your LAM to your singular CDM, or you can't break through. So that leaves with the back 4. Now if you put your left back and right back on join the attack, now if you watch my old 3-1-5-1 video, sorry, 3-1-5-1 or something like that, I can't remember the old video that I did. I think it was a 3-1-5-1. This is how the way it laid out. But again, you have the left back and right back, and maybe you have your LAM and your RAM on free roam. It becomes kind of like inverted wingers, but they never have 2 strikers up front. So the way we do this is we actually have one of the centre backs to join the attack. So what happens is that you've used your regular 4-2-3-1. The only difference is one of your centre backs, he goes forward and he literally becomes a striker. So this is how the formation then looks like in game. The left back and right back, they push up, and that is what you get in the end. So it's kind of like a mix between a 4-1-2-1-2 and a 4-2-3-1. So if you think about it, the 4-4-2 has 2 strikers, but it doesn't have that cam. The 4-1-2-1-2 is 2 centrally and it's 2 narrow. And then you have the 4-2-3-1 where you have 1 striker. This is all 3 of the best formations in the game put into one. So the question you might ask is, well, how do you make the centre back join the attack? Oh, that's a bit complicated, which I'll get onto in a second, but it's important I show you like a depiction of how the system works and which player does go forward. It's only worked now during team in the season, but let me go into it and I'll explain to you how it all works. Okay, now the best way we're going to start to explain it is firstly by looking at the instructions. We'll go over tactics soon, but it's important you understand the instructions first, because they are probably more important. The first thing what we've done is we've created both our central striker and our cam on stay forward. That way you're going to create 2 attacking players that are always going to be staying forward. So you kind of got like a 4-4-1-1 approach. It's also very important that you actually put your striker, in my case, which is Neymar, on stay central. So wherever your striker is, you have to put him on stay central, which I'll get onto in a second. Why you should do it is more to do about positioning. So you have 2 players on stay forward. You have both the LAM and the RAM on come back and defense. Now why? Because when you're defending, you need your LAM and your RAM to come back and defend. And it's also to cover for the player that goes forward. But more importantly, because you've got these 2 guys on stay forward, you don't want every single player being too forward, especially be exploited down the wings. So at least you, worst case scenario, defend in 2 blocks of 4. We also have these 2 players to get into the box. Now the reason why this is actually really important, getting into the box is important because when you go into a wide position, because you now have 2 strikers up front, what happens is both your opponent's centre backs are occupied by these 2 strikers. So your LAM and your RAM, when they run in, they come in very much unmarked. So this is the first time you might see me use get into the box, whereas normally I'm more inclined to using balance, but that is why I use get into the box in this formation. However, do not use free roam. You might see me use free roam on some formations. I wouldn't recommend using it in this one, because when you have two strikers, what happens is when these two guys are on free roam, you find that these players, they interswap with the strikers, then the striker kind of goes out wide, and then sometimes you've got no wingers, and then you want your left back and right back to stay wide. It's kind of a system of how AI marks it. If your opponent has a left back and right back, and your left mid and right mid is very, very wide, your opponent's left back, right back will also have to stay with them. So it actually creates more space alongside your opponent's back line if you create two centre backs versus two strikers and left mid and right mid versus left back and right back, as opposed to congesting the midfield. The rest of the tactics is fine. Then it comes to the two CDMs. Now this is also very important. Now the way the player goes forward is kind of a combination of the extra striker instruction with the D-pad. But the most important thing is both of these players have to be on stay back while attacking. In fact, I'd recommend both of them on both cover center, stay back while attacking. It's very, very important. The reason why is if you don't have them on stay back while attacking, if you try to create the extra striker thing, what would happen is one of these players would just go forward and they'll become the extra striker, and you end up having no one basically in midfield. You'll have only one player in midfield. You don't want that system, whereas that's not that bad. It's not as attacking as you want it to be, and you could get caught, especially if some opponent's parking a bus and you have one CDM to maneuver around your opponent parking a bus. So it's not feasible. You need these guys to put them on stay back while attacking. That way they basically, it vetoes their entire D-pad tactics, so they don't go forward. So don't forget, it's very important you have these guys on stay back while attacking. Now the left back and right back, we have them both on stay back while attacking. We don't have them on overlap. Now if you want to, you can put them on overlap. I wouldn't recommend inverted, just overlap. But I'll be honest, balance is fine. Also, do not forget, overlap doesn't mean they're going to be running forward. It just means that if they do make a run with the L1 or LB trigger, they're going to be making the outside run. That's all the overlap means. They're still going to be staying back. So then it comes to the two centre backs. So I got Mendy and I got Vieira. Now, one of these players is going to go forward. Now, even though they're on stay back while attacking, the way they go forward is a combination of the tactics, which is long ball, and a few other things which I'll explain in a second. And it's also a combination of D-pad tactic, extra striker. Now what extra striker is, if you press up on your D-pad, which is your attacking D-pad tactics, and then you press down. So when you're in the game, press up, then press down. You can activate the D-pad tactic called extra striker. What this will create is one of your players will make a run going forward and become and act as a striker. Now, this is how the formation changes. If you have one of these CDMs unbalanced, by default, the game will choose a CDM to go forward. But as soon as you put the stay back while attacking instruction on both your CDMs, it kind of overrules the tactic, and basically it says, okay, these two CDMs are going to stay put, so the next available person will go forward. Now in the 4-2-3-1, the next available person that isn't an attacker is your centre backs, because the left back and right back is not assigned in that central column. So it's to do with both your centre backs. Now, what's very, very important to understand is it depends which player will go forward, it depends on their stats. The reason why I use Mendy, which I'll explain to you in a second, is because Mendy has that ability to go forward because he has, number one, 5-star, 5-star, and he's got 99 attack positioning. Attack positioning is important. The game decides which one of your defenders goes forward by attack positioning and also by attacking stats in general. So if you had, for example, someone like Trent and let's say Mendy together, the game will by default, it will send the most attacking player forward. So that is what's very, very important. So typically speaking, because in this situation, Mendy's the more attacking player, he's the one that will go forward. Remember, it's how it will work in game. Also, the most important thing is the work rates. The work rates are also very important. The work rates also decides who goes forward. Now, if you haven't done the Mendy card, if you are playing this, let's say for example, you're playing this offline, you can put any fullback in this position. Any fullback like Carvajal and Real Madrid can also go forward, can play a striker role. Isn't really the best, but worst case now you can put any attacking fullback forward there. Trent is a good example. If all of you guys right now, if you're watching this video, you can't have this formation, you haven't done Mendy, you can always sub on Trent for your centre back. Trent plays centre back for me. He's one of the top 5 centre backs in the game. Even better in my opinion than, I'll say top 3 in my opinion for sure. So that's one thing that you can do. So going back to the instructions. So again, the player that's here who's got the most attacking work rates, the most highest attack positioning, and the most attacking awareness, I suppose you can say, the game will decide that player to go forward. Out of the pair, Vieira is obviously more defensive, being medium attacking, high defensive, and Mendy is obviously very similar but more in the attacking sense, and he's got 5-star, 5-star, so the game by default will send Mendy going forward. You'll have to experiment yourself. If you've got different players, you can try using other teammates and fullbacks. Someone like Mariano will be very good. Someone like Corona, that Corona 5-star, 5-star card is also a very good card. But you'll have to experiment yourself, and that's how that player does go forward. Now, when this player goes forward, he will literally act as a striker. Now, he will be in a position like a centre forward, be up front with the strikers. So it's very, very important that this player can actually shoot. It's not the end of the world. You can still use him as a second striker, as you can see in some of these clips. But as you can see, I'm outnumbering my midfield by having 2 strikers up front. One of your CDMs will then drop in to cover. Now, don't forget, they won't drop between defenders. This is important. They'll just kind of sit back a little bit. That's all that will happen. So when you're attacking, as I mentioned, you'll have a 3-2-3-2. Now, which player can the player that drops in? I don't really know how that works. It just is a bit of a combination of the game decides who kind of drops in, depends on positioning and who is really there. In this case, Kante should be the one to drop back because he's medium high and De Jong is high, and in theory De Jong is the more attacking player. But I think because Kante's got better shooting stats, he essentially goes forward and De Jong drops in. So one of your CDMs will drop in, so do bear that in mind. So you might have to experiment with this yourself. So when you use a D-pad tactic, extra striker, using these instructions, centre back will join the attack, one of your centre backs join the attack, the most attacking one, and then one of your CDMs will drop back just a little bit. He won't become a centre back, but he'll drop back just a little bit to kind of fill in that void. So how does the tactics come into play? Well, tactics is also very important. We've gone with balanced. You can use team press with this formation, but I wouldn't recommend any of the other ones. Because you see, if you're pressing and your centre back is pressing really high up the pitch, and then one of your attacking centre back goes forward, you could get done very, very easily against a good player. So just use balanced, in my opinion. Drop back, your centre back is too far away, so when he does try to go forward, it's like he's running a marathon, trying to run all the way from the back line to go forward. The stamina is going to kill him as well. So leave this unbalanced. Width. Now width, we've gone on 5. You might see me use 4 traditionally speaking, but I've gone with 5 this time. You can use 4 if you want, but I've gone with 5 with this system because I prefer the team to be more wider when you're defending, because we know that through balls down the wing are really, really easy to do nowadays, and everyone is doing it with fast players. But also when you're defending, don't forget, because you kind of have a back 3, I want my left back and right back to be just a bit wider so they're occupying more of the wide areas. If you have it on 4, they're a bit more centrally and you could get exploited down the wing, so that's why I've gone with 5. So when the centre back does go forward and you relegate it to a back 3, at least you have that stability. Depth, you might see me use 3 before, because this is an attacking formation. We've gone with 4. I think 4 is an appropriate balance, and that way your centre back or you're just a bit more higher up the pitch, so when he does convert from like that to a strike back position, at least he's in a better position to run forward. When it comes to defensive style, this is important. It has to be long ball. Now don't forget, for those of you who don't know, the long ball tactic just means, in theory, the best way to describe it is getting behind. In a 4-2-3-1, your striker has a getting behind option. Now, in a 4-2-3-1, the cams, the game doesn't give them a getting behind option. Just think of it as if you're giving your cams a getting behind option. So long ball just means that your entire team will get in behind. This is also important for the centre back. Now, even though your centre back has got good work rates, high, medium, and attack positioning, and he's got 5-star, 5-star, and he's got very, very good pace, he won't just run by himself all the time. He'll just run sometimes. That's the key. Sometimes. If you want him to consistently run forward, you have to put this on long ball, because what this will do with a combination of your 2 CDMs staying back while attacking, your back 4 staying back while attacking, the combination of extra striker and long ball will send him forward into attacking positioning. That's why it's very, very important you copy it as is. Now going over to the width and players in the box, the width is equally important. The same thing kind of applies again. You don't want to be too narrow again, because if you're playing a 4-2-3-1, and in this case, as I said, you're going to be playing, it's going to be like this, as I said, where like it's a 3-2-3-2. Don't forget, if the width is too narrow, you're going to have too many players towards the middle. You want at least your lamb and your ram to be occupying the wide areas, so that way you're distracting your opponent's left back and right back, and also you have the gap to play in between your opponent's CDM. You don't want them to be too centrally, because you're going to have your opponent's 4-2-3-1. They're going to be parking the bus with the lamb and a ram coming back on the fence. You don't want them to be as centrally as your other 2 strikers, so the left back and the right back and your opponent's lamb and your ram will kind of be occupying your wide player. So that's why it's a strategic decision and a tactical decision as opposed to a more attack and fluid option. So that's why I've gone with 5. You can, if you really want to, reduce it to 4, but I think 5 is a really, really good balance. I've tested that out. Players in the box, it's not that important because don't forget, as I said, the lamb and the ram are on comeback on offense. Because as I said, because your striker is now running from deep and you're going to have 2 strikers up front, when your opponent, let's say your opponent's got a back 4, if one of your wingers runs into the box and crosses the ball in, the wide lambs and rams, they will come into the box unmarked. So you basically have 4 players in the box. Let's say your ram's on the inside, down the wing over here, you cross the ball in, you have your extra striker, you have your 2 cams, or your 2 strikers, sorry, stay forward, and you have your cam, and then you've got the opposite lamb running inside. So that's why getting to the box is the most important thing. So even if you have this on 2, it doesn't really matter. But because you're saying to these guys, you're getting into the box, remember, instructions always override tactics. So that is how that system is created. So this will just depend on how far the CDM sits. In theory, you can really, if you want to put this on 1, it's actually not a viable option. Don't think this will make the game more defensive. Your sims will be a bit more reserved, but that's about it. But I think 5 is probably a good combination because that way, at least your sims a bit more attacking. And that way, at least you have your 2 strikers inside the middle, your 3 cams. You'll have 1 CDM just over there, other CDM just a little bit behind, then you'll have your centre back, and then you have your left back and right back. So that way you have that 3-2-3-2 system, and it was very, very attacking. And then you do have the left back and right back to pass the ball down the wing. The left back and right back on overlap is really, really good because you get the ball with a wide player, you can always go back if you're in trouble. Corners and free kicks, you can put them on 1. Now, obviously, the most imminent danger with this formation is that you're going to have no centre back when you're attacking. You're going to have a back 3. That is completely fine. Think of it like just a 3 defender formation. And don't forget, when you lose the ball, this defender will transition all the way back to centre back. But one of these players, as I mentioned, will fill the void. So worst case scenario, you're defending with a back 4 and 1 CDM. That is the absolute worst case scenario. And don't forget, you have your lamb and your ram on comeback and defense. If you really struggle with this formation and you're thinking, you know what, maybe he's a bit too attacking for myself, what you can do is you can put the cam on comeback and defense. But the reason why I put this person on stay forward is so your cam is always on stay forward, your striker is just in front of him, and stay central is important because if this centre back goes forward and this guy's unbalanced, he will sometimes drift out wide. So by having this player on stay central, you have the 2 strikers up front and together. That is the key of this formation. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget I do stream on twitch.tv/NealGuides. You can also follow me there. Don't forget the Patreon links in the description below. So if you really want to get better at FIFA 21, don't forget we're making videos for FIFA 21 as well when it does come out. So that is now is a time for you to join before it goes up in price next month. So if you want to retain the same price, make sure you join before the end of this month. Also wanted to say quickly as well, don't forget you're going to have to experiment yourself. It depends on which centre back does go forward, but don't forget when your centre backs do go forward, you end up like this. And then as I said, one of your CDMs will kind of drop just a little bit in between a gap. It would kind of be like a Gilberto Silva Vieira type thing where Gilberto Silva will sit back and Vieira will kind of go a bit more forward. Kind of that type of approach that maybe gives you a better image. So it's not really dropping in between. It's not actually a centre back. It's just being just in front of that. And don't forget when you attack, you'll be something like that. So it'll be a very, very good attacking formation. And don't forget when you transition defensively, you'll have like this momentarily back 4. Then once your centre back kind of arrives, your CDM will kind of push in front, and then you're defending in your 2 CDMs. And don't forget your lamb and your ram will come back in defence. And your 2 strikers, or your cam and your striker, will be on stay forward. So at least that way when you defend, worst case scenario, you'll defend like this in a 4-4-2, and you'll have your cam and your striker sitting like that. So that is the worst case scenario when you're defending. And I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a very, very long video, but one that was very, very necessary. I tried to make it very short and sweet. But in all honesty, some of these videos, they're hard to, if someone just copies the tactics, it doesn't really work out like that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. Take it easy, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out and have a good rest of your weekend league. Take it easy, boys.